All right, check one, check two. Make sure we're set up. Give everybody 30 seconds before, so we can get going here. Welcome and thank you. Thank you and welcome. Welcome and thank you. So, again, everybody's going to be tapping in here. If you could, just so we can all connect with one another, go ahead and drop where you from. Um, City, state, country, wherever you can drop it in the chat box, just so people know, where you're from and we'll be able to vibe and connect with you. Maybe we have something in common. Listen, today's going to be dope. Every live that I do is going to be dope, and it's going to be dope for a couple of reasons. One is because it's live and it's real content. It's real discussions that we need to have about where we are and where we're trying to go. And so today, the topic today is the real reason why you haven't been promoted. Listen. All right, so let me go ahead and set the stage really quick. What's up, y'all? Welcome. I'm Patrick Hart. And today we're getting into the conversation that most folks, they're just too afraid to really talk about. And that's the real reason that you haven't been promoted. And so I'll give you a little bit of backstory, just a little bit of insight. Of course, I spent 15 years in healthcare. I rose through the ranks, became a healthcare executive, ran a business unit that supported over 8,000 clients nationwide. And as a leader in that group, I had a full team of, sales, development. I had a team that I coordinated with in Chennai, India, but also it was about making impact, right? Leading, influencing other people, but also hitting milestones and helping the company grow to a level where we were able to be acquired at the end of 2018. So that's from the healthcare. Before that, I spent almost 8 years in the mobile home industry. And those 8 years in that mobile home industry, I rose to the ranks of a general manager. I was running retail centers. This is before the housing market went to crap in like 2007, 2008. And so by then I needed to pivot, right? And I found healthcare at the beginning of 2009. But even before the mobile home industry, I spent 6 years in the military. I was in the Army and I was a helicopter mechanic. And I had the amazing opportunity of not only uh, providing, maintenance for this technology advanced aircraft, but I also got a chance to travel, see many states here in the United States, but also many countries outside of the US. So that was really eye opening for me. And I learned early on the impact of influence within the military, how to lead and guide other people. And I was able to carry that momentum and that attitude and those skills to really help me advance throughout my career as I made, these various pivots. So today we're talking about the real reason why you haven't been promoted. And there's tons of reasons why we haven't been promoted. And I'm going to set this up and hopefully walk you through this, help, educate you on what you can do so we can help you get to that next level. But I'm not sure if you're going to be shocked or not if I tell you this. 90% of qualified healthcare professionals, they get overlooked for an opportunity year after year after year. Raise your hand if that's been you. Drop some comments, a light bulb, whatever that may be. If that's you, you found yourself in that situation where you feel like you're extremely qualified, but for whatever reason, you haven't reached that next level. You've got stuck in that one position, whether that's at the entry level, mid level, or you're still stuck at the executive level and you're looking to make a pivot. So over 90%. So we're going to dig into some of the tools, techniques, and just strategies that's going to help you get to that next level. And I titled this next section right here, Silent Career Blockers, the Unseen Chains. So let me break down. There's three hidden reasons why folks, they stay stuck and they're not elevating. And no particular order, but let's jump into it. Lack of visibility, not lack of skill, lack of visibility, meaning you're there, but you're just not seen, right? And I'm not going to go into full detail about each and every one because it can take all day. And I definitely want to take this moment to let you know I am putting together. I'm putting together one of my sessions, and that's going to be on April 24th at 6 p.m. I'll put the link that's already in the chat box. So if you want to join that, and we're just going to be talking about those. It's going to be the 3-step formula for helping you elevate your career, and we'll talk more about that here in a minute. But in no particular order. Lack of visibility, not lack of skill. I told you before, 90% of people are not getting promoted, right? So that means only 10% of people are actually making it to that next level. Well, why is that? It's not because you're not educated. It's not because you don't have the right skill set. It's because you're not visible, right? And so Here's how you know if you're visible or not. Does your supervisor's supervisor know who you are? Does your supervisor's supervisor know what you contribute and bring to the table? Have you ever met your CEO? Does the CEO know directly what you do for your organization? Right? And if all these things are true, you know your supervisor knows who you are, and the CEO knows who you are, but you're not getting promoted, I mean, you may not be in the right environment. So we'll expand more on that. That's number one. Two, playing safe and not advocating for yourself. Man, we're playing small ball. A lot of us out here, we're on the checkerboard, but we think we're playing chess, and you're still playing checkers. Listen, if you're in the game, you're in the game. And the game that we're in right now, we're in the game of life where we're trying to elevate, get to the next level, right? It's either you're in or you're not. And if you're going to be in and you're looking to grow and skill, then we need to be 100% in. You can't just be playing it safe all the time, right? So this is going to require us to get outside of our comfort zone, playing it safe and not advocating for yourself. I want to ask you this. In your current role, when you interview for the job, did you tell the hiring manager what you had planned for your career during the interview? Like, so they're interviewing you, and then sometimes recruiters ask you this. It's kind of outdated, but sometimes recruiters ask you, well, what's your vision over the next 5 years? This is an opportunity to tell the recruiting or the hiring manager where you see yourself over the next 5 years. And if you haven't thought about it, this is where you want to give it thought. And then you want to verbalize that. You want to do that early on in the process. Because I don't want to get to an organization only to realize there's no advancement opportunities for me. Whose fault is that? That's mine, because closed mouths don't get promoted, right? So that's one of the things, playing it safe, not advocating for yourself. Advocating yourself requires you to actually tell people where you would like to go with your career. So that means finding your voice, right? And we'll talk about that later. The third, poor leadership pipelines that don't recognize diverse potential. You can raise your hand. Let me know if you worked for an organization where nepotism was prevalent, right? That the boss brings in, the brother-in-law, brings in the nephew, brings in the uncle, brings in the brother, brings in somebody. You worked in those organizations, right? And so you're scratching your head and you're like, man, how can I get promoted in this environment? Chances are you're probably not. So is that the right environment for you? Things to ask yourself. The other thing is you work for organizations, but they don't actually recognize diverse talent. Meaning you're a diverse talent within an organization, but the culture hasn't been set up in such a way to recognize you for what you bring to the table. So that's another one you got to ask yourself, am I in the right environment, right? And then the other thing too is like poor leadership. Maybe you work for organizations who have leaders who they fail to share the information that they know on how to network with inside the organization, or they fail to provide you the right insight to help you elevate your career. So if these things are happening to you, those are probably stop signs. These are probably warning signals. These are probably yellow lights that you probably want to take a look at and figure out whether or not it makes sense to continue to invest your time and energy in organizations like that, or we need to find our voice so we can move forward, right? So that was two. Number three, I call this the mindset shift from worker to leader, right? So in order to make that shift from being a worker to actually leading people, there's going to require this internal upgrade within yourself, okay? Anybody remembers when, and I'm going to use a poor analogy, but I like using analogies because people often relate to them. Remember in 2007 when Apple came out with the first iPhone? Yeah, I remember that because I was in line. I was trying to get that first iPhone. And when the first iPhone came out, it was so technologically advanced that it just changed the way we communicated and used our cell phone from there on out. And then what Apple did is every 6 months, they will release a new version of the iPhone, right? So they started releasing like every 6 months. But in order to release a new version every 6 months, they needed to upgrade the internal components of the iPhone to be able to do different and better things. So when you think of yourself, and I'm not comparing you to an iPhone, what I'm comparing you to is the internal upgrades that are required from oneself in order to shift that mindset from worker to a leader. What organizations are looking for now, right? Some organizations, you may work for this organization and you may find yourself in that role, that they're only looking for a worker. They don't want you to contribute any other way other than the job that we assign you to do. But to be a leader, now what you're doing is I'm not worried about how many hours that I'm clocking in. What I'm focused on is what I bring to the table, the outcomes that I'm able to help the organization achieve. And some of that may be through guiding and leading other people. And some of that also may be actually putting it on paper and sharing my vision with the leaders within the organization who truly can affect change, right? And so that mindset shift, a lot of people get stuck there. I remember in the military, right? And I go back to my military days because it was so influential for me in my career growth that so here I am. I ended up being a leader over my team within the platoon. And so I was granted that. I know it was early on, and here I am. Man, I'm young at this point. I was probably barely 20, 21 at this point. And so all my peers who we shared the same rank, now I'm actually over them and I have to direct and influence them, right? That shift right there is so freaking uncomfortable because these are the same people that you've been kicking it with after hours. These are the same people that you go to the bar with and have drinks with. These are the same people, you know, all their kids, you know, their family members, but yet you're in a position of power where you can influence and impact what their careers look like, right? So that shift for me happened very early on, is where I had to figure out, you know, what was my purpose and how do I want to be perceived within an organization? And for a lot of us, we have to work on that. We have to make that mental shift from worker to leader, right? So it requires an internal upgrade within ourselves in order to make that shift. Here's another thing, too. A lot of people get stuck in that permission trap. They're waiting for somebody else to green light their leadership journey. You can raise your hand, let me know, drop some comments or a light bulb if that's been you, right? You're waiting for somebody else to recognize or green light you for that leadership journey. So, meaning you've heard me say this before, closed mouths don't get fed, right? Closed mouths don't get promoted. But here you are, you have the skills, you have the talent, you're part of that 90% group of all those professionals who are not going anywhere in their career. And it's only because you're waiting for somebody to green light your leadership journey. That's the permission trap. We get stuck thinking that I got to get permission from somebody that's over me. I have to get permission from someone that's in the organization. I have to get permission from other people around me to make me feel like, okay, now I'm green lighted that I can make the move to the next level. So in that mindset shift, internal upgrades, and now we stop waiting for people to green light us and we actually start taking action, right? If you want to overcome fear, well, you actually have to get moving. Action cures fear, right? And so that's one of the things that I'm going to challenge you with. And then I dropped this line right here. Leadership, listen, it isn't given. Leadership is taken. You step into it before anyone hands you the title. So, meaning even if you're not a leader within your organization, what you are leading is you're leading discussions, you're leading visionary approaches, you're leading by example because you're actually doing the things that a leader would do within an organization without the title, right? So leadership isn't given, it's actually taken because you position yourself through action to start making the steps that are required to get you into the title that you're looking for. Number 4 today. Why hard work ain't enough. There's a myth, and I call this the myth of mediocrity, right? And here's a hard truth. It's not about who works the hardest. It's about who's strategic, visible, as well as vocal. I call this double V's. So you take a V, what is that? The little apostrophe and then the S, right? So there's 2 V's, apostrophe, and then there's an S, right? I call this the double V's because one V is visibility, the other V is vocal, and then the S is strategic. If you're not rolling with 2 V's and S's, you're not visible, you're not vocal, and you're not strategic, guess what? You're not promoted. Simple as that. I can't make it any simpler than that. And you're saying, well, Patrick, how do I do that? Well, join my class. Listen, join the 3-step formula later. Because, I'll post that. I think, again, I'll put the link inside the chat box. So you can go ahead, take your time now, register for that because it's going to be fire. It's going to be dope. Y'all know me. I'm going to deliver it and keep it 100 because that's what I do. My job today is to help you get to the next level. So whether you join or not, I'm still going to be out here helping somebody else. You got to decide whether or not you want to be part of that group or not. All right. So hard work is not enough. We said that. The hard truth is it's not about the work, right? It's not about who works the hardest. It's about who has those two V's and S's: visibility, vocal, as well as strategic. There's three other points that I'm going to hit on right here. Executive presence. Look at me. Your boy clean. I came looking clean today, right? This was me every day when I was in the office, right? Why is executive presence so important? Well, one, it shows that you take care of yourself, right? And it adds to your brand within the organization, right? So that's executive presence. People need to be able to perceive you as someone who could potentially influence and impact other people. And oftentimes, as judgmental as you may think it is, it's how you present yourself, it's how you dress. So executive presence is important too, because now leadership within the organization, what they're looking for is, can I put you in a position in front of my clients or future prospects, right? And you can have a conversation with them and portray the image of the organization to them. That's why executive presence is important. So one of the things I would tell you to invest in is invest in your wardrobe, upgrade yourself a little bit. And this should be something that if you're not doing it every 6 months, you're doing it on a yearly basis. You're upgrading your wardrobe, you're upgrading your brand, your image. That's going to be so important. The other thing here is communication and influence, right? We have to get better at how we communicate within an organization and the influence that we have. Some of communication requires us to either connect with a coach, a mentor, or invest into ourselves, whether that's through reading, audiobooks, things like that, because you want to learn about journeys of other people. You want to learn how people position themselves. You want to learn how people talk to one another, right? And then how to establish the influence within your organization. The other thing I have on here is knowing how to package your wins. A lot of us, what we do is we go out here and we're winning. Well, you're winning because you've accomplished something, but nobody knows about the accomplishment that you had, right? And so this is where we package our wins in such a way, and this is when you use your wins. Your one-on-one sessions with your supervisor. Do not let it go unnoticed what you contributed that week, for that month, for that quarter, or for that year. So I would keep a list of my wins. It could be extremely small, but I'm keeping a list of that win and I'm sharing those wins. We're in a group setting and people are looking for commentary. They're looking for input. This is where you share your wins as well. If people want to shut you down, they cannot shut down outcomes, right? Outcomes that you've been able to accomplish. So you speak up. Hey, Jim. Hey, John. You remember, a year ago when we had this issue and this is what I brought to the table and this was the outcome. Those are your wins, right? So own your wins. Be able to share your wins. And if you keep in that list of your wins, not only are you sharing those wins internally, but it also translates to what your resume looks like. And when you start interviewing for other roles, now those wins become highlighted and I can talk about them even more. So that's another good time. And I'll share this with you. Listen, you can grind all day and still get passed up if you don't know how to sell your impact. And so that's the other thing is we're always selling ourselves. Remember, I told you before, it's either you're in the game or you're out the game. You can't be in the game and then don't play the game. You can't be out the game and expect to be in the game. You can't win the game if you ain't playing the game. So all of it is the game, right? That's how I look at it. And I'm not saying that our careers are a game. I'm just saying understand that there's a game to elevating yourself, to strategically placing yourself. Remember, we're playing chess, not checkers. And in chess, there's pawns, there's knights, there's queens, there's bishops, there's rooks, there's all kind of things, right? That's part of the game of chess. That's the same thing that we're doing. We're making moves and we're positioning ourselves here. We're positioning ourselves here. We're making a sweeping move here. We're checkmating people here, things like that, because that's part of the game. And part of the game is the culture in which we may find ourselves within an organization. It's in the game. It's either you're in the game or you're not in the game. And the minute you don't want to be in the game, that's totally up to you. I'm fine with that. It's your career. But if you choose to be in the game, then don't get passed over because you didn't learn how to sell your impact to an organization. All right, my 5 bullet point here is, I talked about before the 3-day, the 3-step formula that I'm putting together on the 24th. Again, I dropped it in the box. It's at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. You can go ahead and register for that. And within that, there's going to be 3 main bullet points that I'm going to hit on that's going to help you navigate, grow your career. One is positioning. How do you show up and how others perceive you, right? That's going to be one. 2 is packaging. So we're going to package. And this is just framing your experience so it screams, I'm a leader, right? So we're going to work on that. And then 3 is promoting. This is strategically getting noticed by the right decision makers. And sometimes those right decision makers may or may not be within your organization. All right. I want to emphasize this. Growth is tactical. It's not fluffy. It's extremely tactical. This is this 3-day formula, and even this right here. This is not for this is for folks who are ready to stop winging it and start winning. If you truly want to win, listen, this 3-day formula is for you. So I dropped that in the chat box again, April 24th, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. There's a monetary fee involved in that, and it's only $47. And I put this out there because this is for the people who are truly looking to elevate. And I think a $47 commitment within yourself is only right because you have to continue to invest in yourself, right? If you're not looking to grow and grind, right, this ain't for you. So skip it. It ain't for you. But please share it with somebody you may know who's on that journey of elevation and they're just looking for some insight. The other thing I want to point out here. Yeah, I've been doing this. Yeah, I've been successful. Yeah, I have this live, and I'm going to have these lives, if not on a weekly, every bi-weekly basis, to help provide some insight to your journey. But I don't want you to look at me as a coach because that's not what I want to be. I want to be a mentor, someone that's going to help you navigate this, because for me, it's not one-on-one approach. This is a mass approach. That's why I'm doing this in a group setting like that. You can always connect with me behind the scenes and go from there. But I can also help open doors within my network, especially if you're in healthcare, with a lot of the people that I'm connected to who also respects what I bring to the table. So you want to use me for that as well. So here's my call to action as I'm wrapping this things up. Okay. If you ever felt overlooked, underestimated, this is your moment. This is truly your moment. Drop a comment, tag a friend, show up to the workshop like your next level depends on it, because it does. If you're not doing anything different from other than connecting with me, then it 100% does, right? And again, I mentioned where you can register right there. So at this point, just to recap really quick, today we talked about the real reasons why you haven't been promoted. There's 3 real reasons right here: lack of visibility, not skill; 2, playing safe, not advocating for yourself; 3, poor leadership pipelines that don't recognize diverse potential. We also talked about the internal upgrade, the mind shift that's needed from going from worker to a leader, right? And then that permission trap. We get stuck in that permission trap waiting for somebody to green light us. We talked about the myth of thinking that just because I work hard means that I'm going to get promoted. We talked about the double V's and S's, being visible, vocal, and strategic. You have to have that part of your playbook to get to the next level. We touched on executive presence. We touched on communication and influence. We touched on knowing how to package yourself and your wins. And then we also touched on the sneak peek. So at this point, to save you some time, remember, go ahead and take this time to register for that 3-day formula, or the 3-step formula, on April the 24th, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. And please feel free to drop some questions that you may have at this moment. Things that I can answer for you, things that maybe we can glean from one another on this particular live call. So I'll wait a minute and open this up for discussion. So if anybody wants to come off mute or drop something in the comments, you're welcome to. And I'll hold this for about 30 seconds here. And if not, then we'll pivot to what's next. Mm-mm-mm. Listen, I enjoyed this. I enjoy this 100%. There's a couple of different ways you can connect with me. Obviously, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, and that's Patrick. Last name is Hart. You can connect with me there. But also, I'm active across social media, whether that's Instagram, whether that's YouTube. I just started with TikTok here lately within the last couple of weeks. Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn. Those are my three big ones right there. Connect with me there. That's that healthcare guy, THAT healthcare guy. You can also follow my company. That's PDP Media, PDP Media, and that sole focus of PDP Media is to help not only you but organizations with branding. I think we do a horrible job in healthcare distinguishing our different and better story. We do a horrible job in healthcare helping people navigate that career path, right? Showing you how to get from point A to B. I do all of that, right? And so check out some of my work. I got more releases that's going to be dropping this week of some healthcare facilities that I've been spotting. So if you needed your healthcare facility spotlighted, hit me up for that as well. And then I think that's about it. Any other questions before we close this out? If not, listen, thank you for your time. Make sure you continue to tap in with your boy. You follow, like, comment, and then more importantly, you share my content with other people who can truly benefit from it. I do this from the heart, and I do this because I learned through my course of elevating through the career ladder and that no one is there to help you out. No one's there to greenlight your success. But if you find a mentor, someone like myself who's kind of been there, done that, I can help you navigate those rough waters so we can get to that next level. Hey, listen, guys, until the next time, keep grinding, keep hustling, keep supporting. Talk to you soon.